Frank?
Yeah, I've got a couple of things, and I want to get some consensus from the group. I'm still unhappy with the final product that we produce with respect to our ADU ordinances. I still would like to, and I understand the exigency of getting something in place and the desire for us to move forward. And I also understand, well, let's wait and see what happens and then we'll amend it. A couple of things come to mind. Once the cat is out of the bag, if we've made a mistake, it is going to be virtually impossible for us to reverse or amend it. If we catch the problem now, and let's assume we get too restrictive, we can let those out later when we determine that that's the problem and that we will get what we want. It's harder to go the other way. What I would ask this council to consider is that I would like to see planning staff come back to us with a couple of proposed amendments. I'm not asking for commitment to agree to those tonight. I'm asking for us to get some proposal that would be consistent with at least a couple of things. I would like to see that if you're going to participate in this program, that we maintain or retain the owner-occupied caveat. Well, occupy the ADU or occupy the home, but the owner's got to be there, or occupy, or got to be on. Only one of them can be rented, is what I'm saying. The other is that I would like to see potentially, instead of a 5-year minimum deed commitment, a 7-year. Why that's different? It just is. I think 5 years is just too short under the circumstances. I understand the argument, well, it's too long and nobody will participate. Okay, we can fix that later. That's when we can figure out and say, okay, if that's the problem, I'll fix that later. It's harder to fix it once it's got established, to raise it. The other is, I think that we still need to maintain and should require, even with standard ADUs, that if they're going to be rented, that we need to require that the home or one of the two facilities be owner-occupied. I don't think we can just release that, again, without significant impacts on our neighborhoods in terms of what we want to maintain. So I would like to look at amendments that might deal with those issues. If I can get some support from council to direct staff to do that, I'd sure appreciate it.
Rebecca?
So I did want to have participate in this discussion, but I was sick the first meeting in May, and I had a medical appointment in Great Falls the second meeting. And so I had requested that we discuss that tonight, but instead it kind of went whoosh into what has been adopted. And so I'm in agreement with Frank and the
Giuseppe?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. We could have voted either way then. I have a problem reviewing this with the process, because we went through a process, planning board went through the process. We had, I don't remember how many public hearings about that. People have been lobbying, people have come, they've worked one way or the other way, pro and con. We have listened to all these arguments, and I know personally we would have voted differently because I know your feelings, you wrote them. At the same time, had it passed or not passed in a different way, I knew the rules of the game. We went first reading, second reading, we pulled it out of the consent agenda, we rediscussed it, and we voted. So I have a problem reviewing an ordinance because of the process. Now, if you want to know data from people who do it, I've engaged 2 builders already, and if this gets modified, you have an example of a citizen that will pull out of that. I might lose money. So there might be people out there who have already started thinking about it, and I tell you what, one day I might want to spend 6 months in Florida, and I don't want to rent my own house to someone else, but I can still have my workers from the golf course in my ADU. So, Rebecca, I don't think you have data to say that if we do one way, this will cause something. We do not know. For that reason, I'm really against rediscussing right now this ordinance.
Frank, thanks, Giuseppe.
Just happy, two things. This is not reconsidering the ordinance. That's not what I'm proposing. I'm proposing that we look at possibly amending it, not pulling it off, not doing anything else. So in terms of process, there would still be a public process associated with any possible amendment to an approved ordinance, which we all agree is approved, and I'm not trying to retrain that. So let's be clear about that. And then the second thing is that nothing I proposed would prohibit, and if it isn't clear otherwise, would prohibit you from having an ADU, renting it out, going to Florida for 6 months, and not renting your house out. You would still could have that ADU, it could still operate under my scenario, under my thoughts. And so I just want to be clear about that. I understand your feelings, but let's be clear what I was proposing, okay?
Yes? Sure.
If the ordinance had passed 1 year ago, and we want to amend an ordinance, why not? We are looking at a planning staff that just lost a planner. We're sitting at budget session knowing that there are, how many, 44 vacancies that we cannot fill in the city. We have so much, we're so behind the power curve. We still have to redo the growth policy dated 2007, and I would rather direct the staff to work forward rather than backwards. So I'm balancing those cases when I address this. Had it been 1 year ago, not working, we put it on the agenda and we discuss amending or changing or reordinancing. Right now, we just accepted it and passed it 3 weeks ago. To me, it's like revisiting this current ordinance without having testing.
Not seeing much support for your initiative, but thank you for bringing it forward.